Emergency podcast. The Pistons did it. They made a trade. They made one trade before the trade deadline. They moved Saddiq Bey for Golden State Warriors big man and who was formerly on the top of Troy Weaver's draft board, James Wiseman. What does this all mean? Why did Troy Weaver do this? We're going to talk about all of it in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And today's episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. Stop throwing your money away, cancel unwanted subscriptions, and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/lockedonnba. We have big news. This is probably the biggest news of the season going. Actually, not the biggest news of the season. Biggest news of the season probably was K being out, obviously. But since then, this is the biggest news of the season for the Pistons. They traded away Saddiq Bey. Yes, they actually did it. And they got James Wiseman. Now, look, this podcast might be a little all over the place. This is my straight reaction. I'm recording right after the trade was made. I didn't sit down and organize all my thoughts. I didn't sit down and get everything I wanted. This is just my raw reaction to it. So we're going to be probably a little bit all over the place, but who cares? I'm sure all of you guys are a little all over the place too. So what are my thoughts about this trade? So I think I've already seen all of you guys, a lot of fans' responses. They're not happy about this. They're really not happy about this. But I'm gonna try put I'm gonna try to put myself in Weaver's shoes and see why he did this. James Wiseman, according to reports that we've heard for a while now, was at the very top of Troy Weaver's draft board in 2020. The exact same draft class for Saddiq Bey, which means they both have a contract coming up in the exact same year. It seems like that Troy Weaver had seen from Saddiq Bey reasons to believe he was not going to be able to fit with this team long term, that he had not proven enough to be a rotational player for a winning team. He may get there in Atlanta, which is where Warriors ended up flipping him to. He's actually going to be playing in Atlanta. But obviously, Weaver didn't feel confident in that. And he obviously must be much higher still on James Wiseman. So my concern, my only concern with this trade, this is my only concern. I don't have a concern about, Saddiq Bey was so much more valuable. You guys know I haven't been big on Saddiq Bey. I've been trying to say I don't think Saddiq Bey is very valuable. I don't really care about that, if you want me to be honest. Saddiq Bey has been, now that he's off the team, I'm just going to be straight up honest with you guys. He has been a very bad defender for the Detroit Pistons, one of the worst defenders in the wing position in the league. He's been a very inefficient player. He shoots a ton of shots. He has barely shot over 40% twice in his career. And over the last 2 years, he's been a below average three-point shooter. So, and a guy that's been, on this team, for him to have, I guess, the best success this year, he had to have the ball in his hands trying to draw free throws. And he wasn't that great at that to where you want to be taking the ball out of other people's hands for him. So I completely understand why Troy Weaver came to the understanding that Saddiq Bey probably doesn't fit this long term. So let's move him. What I'm more concerned about, rather than just like getting raw value for Saddiq Bey, is whether Troy Weaver's player evaluation is just completely off. Because the thing with Troy Weaver that we've been told is that he is his calling card is the draft. His calling card is player evaluation and scouting. That's what we are told his big calling card is. And obviously, James Wiseman, we'll talk about more of him, the player, a little bit later. But James Wiseman has not played a lot in the NBA thus far. He played for the Warriors. He didn't play a ton for them. He's dealt with injuries, a bad situation over there, a team that's trying to win championships, continue a dynasty that doesn't have time to develop guys and let them make mistakes. It was a bad situation for him. But still, even still, it's quite obvious that Troy Weaver still is much higher on James Wiseman than Saddiq Bey and believes James Wiseman is still going to be a better player than Saddiq Bey, and that's why he made the move. So I cannot fault a GM if he is presented with a trade that he believes he's getting a better player from the same draft class. He still believes he's the best player or a better player than Saddiq Bey, and being like, oh, absolutely, I'm making that trade. Everyone else can question it. Everyone else, all the fans, they can say, oh, what is James Wiseman shown to be this? What is James Wiseman shown to be that, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're a GM and you trust your player evaluations and you are offered a trade for a guy from the same draft class that's going to be paid in the same time as Saddiq Bey that you're higher on, in his mind, it's a no. Obviously, it's a no-brainer. You absolutely do it. So what I'm going to be watching for is not whether Saddiq Bey becomes, a rotation player. I don't care about the value, whether Saddiq could have got maybe an extra second-round pick. Second-round picks don't matter. It is what it is, man. I don't care about that. I want to see, is Troy Weaver on the mark with his player evaluation, or is he way off? Because if he's way off in his player evaluation, now that causes me to question a lot of other things. But right now, we are told that his player evaluation is his calling card. That's what he trusts the most. And his player evaluation still says, I can get the most out of James Wiseman, and the most out of James Wiseman is better than the most I can get out of Saddiq Bey. And if he believes that, I would make the same no-brainer move too, if that's how I felt. So that's where I'm at with the trade itself. So I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm happy that the Pistons just simply made a move, to be honest, because this team needed some kind of jolt of energy. This team needed some kind of change or something to bring fans back to watch, made it interesting to watch, something to watch for, because this team just was at a point where it was just really tough to watch for a lot of people, and they needed something. They absolutely needed something. So I'm happy they made a trade. And again, I'm holding judgment on this trade until we see how James Wiseman plays for the Pistons over the next year or so. Because again, it comes down to whether Weaver can get the best out of Wiseman, and if the best out of Wiseman was better than what the best out of Saddiq was. And Weaver believes that. So if you guys trust, this is my thing. Everyone loves Troy Weaver all the way up until this. Now everyone's killing him. Everyone says that he's a genius. He's amazing with player evaluations. He does this. He has a secret plan to everything. Blah, 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 blah. Everyone's worshiped Troy Weaver. And now he makes this move. Everyone thinks he's an idiot. I don't see how you can do that. If you believed he was amazing with his player evaluations and that he knows what he's doing all the way up until now, you have to feel like that. You have to at least give him a chance to see if he's right with this player evaluation. I don't know how you can flip the script on him this quickly when you haven't even seen what he's able to do with Wiseman, someone who he believes, again, was at the top of his draft board in 2020. So, and it's not like for me, James Wiseman's played enough serious basketball for a team to where you have enough of a sample size to say, oh yeah, that dude sucks. He's only played 60 games in his career for a team that's trying to win a championship. It's not really trying to develop guys. And I've seen a lot of Warriors people say that he needed to be moved to have a chance because he just wasn't going to get that type of chance in Golden State. So I don't see how people can act like they have enough sample size to say this kind of thing. I'm going to wait to see how James Wiseman looked with the Pistons. I'm ecstatic because they've needed a backup five. You guys know I've spent the last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks saying they desperately need a backup five because they don't have any other five but Duren. So I'm really excited to see how Wiseman looks off the bench as a five for the Pistons. Do they try to experiment with him in two big man lineups? I'm interested to see it. I wonder how they're going to use him. I guess one of my other questions is the coaching staff creative enough to use Wiseman in two big man lineups? I don't know. We'll see that too. But that's my initial reaction. That's just my initial raw thoughts on this trade. But when we come back, I want to talk about what Wiseman's done in his career. What can he do? His contract situation. How does he fit? All the other stuff. We're going to talk about that when we come back. But first, I got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors. This sponsor is Rocket Money. So, do you know how much your subscriptions cost? Most Americans think they spend around $80 a month on subscriptions, when the actual total is closer to $200. If you don't know exactly how much you're spending every month, you need Rocket Money. Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill, is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Over 80% of people have subscriptions they've forgotten about, like the streaming service you bought to just watch that one show on, or that free trial that you've never even used. Rocket Money will quickly and easily identify your subscriptions for you so you can stop paying for the ones you don't want. Simply find the subscription that you don't want and press cancel, and Rocket Money will cancel it for you. No more long hold times with customer service or tedious emailing back and forth. Rocket Money makes canceling subscriptions as easy as a click of a button. Over 3 million people have used Rocket Money, saving the average person up to $720 per year. Stop throwing your money away, cancel unwanted subscriptions, and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA. That's rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA, rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA to cancel your unwanted subscriptions the easy way. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. So, more about James Wiseman. I guess this will be my last words on Saddiq Bey because he's not Piston anymore. I know you guys love Saddiq Bey. I know Saddiq Bey was loved. But I gotta be honest. We gotta calm down, everybody. We gotta stop acting like we just traded Chauncey Billups. Okay. The reaction from some people I've been seeing acting like Saddiq Bey won some playoff games with the Pistons. Like they won a championship with him and they just lost the Pistons legend. Like I can get being upset and thinking the value wasn't equal, fair. But some of the emotional reaction I'm seeing is a little crazy. Let's just calm down just a tad, okay? We need to relax. So I want to dive in a little bit further, obviously, with James Wiseman. So, who is James Wiseman? What is James Wiseman? So, James Wiseman is obviously a center. He is a 7-footer with an extremely long wingspan. He's very athletic, moves well for his size, and we already know that is the recipe for a Troy Weaver big guy. A 7-footer, which the Pistons haven't really had. I'm happy they have a 7-footer now. I can't wait to see what they look like with this. To be honest, I really wish we could have seen Cade with James Wiseman because I hope James Wiseman, he's probably going to be on the team next year. I'd like to see what Cade looks like, obviously with Jalen Duren, but then also James Wiseman. I think that's a good archetype fit with Cade Cunningham. But anyway, James Wiseman, 7-footer, long wingspan, very athletic, hasn't played much in his NBA career at all. He played 39 games his rookie season, got hurt. He missed the entirety of his second season with a knee injury he was recovering from. And then this year has barely played for the Warriors, has been going back and forth with their G League team, and just hasn't been able to find a role with the Golden State Warriors. He was obviously selected with the second pick in the 2020 NBA draft. So where I stand with James Wiseman is this. He is not your usual, he's in his third year. You usually know what guys are in their third year. That's not fair with him. He's only played 60 games. He hasn't even played one season's worth of NBA games. I still think he has a lot of untapped potential. And obviously Troy Weaver feels the exact same way. The role I see him playing for this team is as a backup 5. And what it calls into question more for me is if Marvin Bagley's coming back soon, which we did just get some clips lately, that Marvin Bagley is starting to do some individual drills, how are they going to fit? They've needed a 5, and James Wiseman is a 5. But how are they going to fit Wiseman with Bagley? If you want to be honest, I'm assuming that they probably just don't even care about that. If you want to be just straight up, they probably just don't even care about the fit right now for this season. They're losing anyways. But I am interested to see how they use that. But in the long term, I've seen some people say you basically just gave Saddiq Bey up for a backup. Well, Saddiq Bey is a backup. Saddiq Bey is probably going to be a backup in this league if he's able to figure out, some of the other stuff, his defensive stuff, eliminate some bad habits, get more consistent with 3-point shooting. Like Saddiq Bey, people are saying we trade Saddiq Bey for a backup as if Saddiq Bey was like this proven starter in the NBA for a contender, and they just swapped him out for a backup. Not James Wiseman, but Saddiq Bey hasn't proven that he can be a legit rotation player. Now, he's looked better than James Wiseman, but James Wiseman also hasn't even been given the chance to play, really. And he's been in a really bad situation in Golden State. Now, does that mean that Wiseman is going to be better than Saddiq? No, it doesn't mean that. We don't know, and that's what we're going to have to wait to see. That's what's really going to tell the story of the trade, obviously, not the value, in my opinion. But it's not like the Pistons just gave away a superstar for a backup. That's one. And secondly, they need a backup 5 desperately. They've needed one all season long. They only have 1 5. So being able to get one that has potential and one that you had at the top of your draft board, I think makes complete sense if you're a GM. That's just me. That sounds like it makes really a lot of sense. That's secondly. And then thirdly, even if you want to say, oh, well, the ceiling is capped, because even if he does figure it out and he does reach the potential that he had before the draft, or he does reach the potential that Weaver believes he has, well, his ceiling is capped because we have Jalen Duren. And I don't see how that. I don't know how someone could say that and think that makes sense. If Wiseman, let's just play this long hypothetical. Let's just say he does figure it out. Let's say Troy Weaver was right, and James Wiseman turns his career around. By the way, he's only played 60 career games. I don't know how you can say he's turned his career around. He's barely been able to play. But anyways, let's just say he does. Let's just use that. He turns his career around and he reaches the potential people had for him before the draft, and he reaches the potential that Troy Weaver believes he has. Then you now have a tradable asset that people are going to want now. You've taken a second overall pick, helped him get to the potential that people believe he had, and people start to see that. Now you actually have an asset that you can flip for something. You can flip him for something and get something in return, which we know the Pistons have been needing assets. And then if he plays that well in that scenario, it could just not be picks. You could be trading him for a really good player at a different position. That's first. And then second, the potential that he had, if you're saying that he can reach the potential beforehand and the potential that Weaver had for him, Weaver had him at number 1 on his draft board. Now, is it likely he's going to be that? No. That's probably not likely. Not likely at all. But Weaver seems to think it is. And if that happens, then you're talking about a dude who's proven to be the best in his draft class, or one of the best in his draft class now. Is that not a really damn good player? Are we sure that that player right there can't start? Like, are we sure about that? I don't know how people look at that as a bad thing. Oh, he develops and becomes what we want, what Troy Weaver believes he is, but now he's stuck as a backup. How is that bad? How is that bad? Was Saddiq Bey going to be starting for this team moving forward? Dwayne Casey just came out last week and said Saddiq Bey's future on this team is probably off the bench. So the Pistons traded bench player for bench player. They traded a player they didn't believe was going to be able to contribute for them on a winning team in the future. And they didn't want to pay him with this contract coming up in a year. They didn't want to pay him. So they then traded that backup that for them has been unproven on a winning team for another backup that they don't believe has been proven on a winning team, but they believe that guy actually has more potential. I don't see how people are spazzing about this. I really don't. I don't get how people could be mad about this trade. It makes complete sense, in my opinion. It makes complete sense if you're Troy Weaver and looking at it this way. It makes complete sense. Now, would you have rather liked them get like a second-round pick with it too? Sure. But Pistons fans who thought Saddiq Bey was worth the first-round pick were delusional from the get-go. People who thought that Saddiq Bey was going to net the Pistons the first-round pick were just delusional. Saddiq Bey, I saw people saying, oh, yeah, we'll take this trade if you include Jonathan Kuminga. If you think that Saddiq Bey is worth Jonathan Kuminga, again, you're just delusional. He's not worth Jonathan Kuminga. He's not. The Warriors really like Jonathan Kuminga. He's provided a lot for them this year, I feel like. He's played really well. He hasn't been no superstar. He's only 20 years old. But he's helping contribute for a team trying to win in the playoffs, trying to win this season. I don't see why Pistons fans thought that Kuminga and Saddiq Bey were on the same level value-wise. So I don't think that it was this bad of a... I don't feel like if you're a GM and you believe Wiseman has this potential and you believe Wiseman has a higher ceiling than Saddiq Bey and you believe you can get that out of him, how you can say that's bad value. That's just where I'm at with it. That's what I believe. And if he does figure it out and he's just capped as a backup 5, good. Then the Pistons have a really damn good backup 5. Why is that bad? Why does every player the Pistons get have to be a superstar? Why does every player the Pistons get have to be an all-star for them to be worthy? Why? Why does that have to be the case? I don't get that. If the Pistons trade for someone who is a legit backup 5, one of the best, if he ends up being like one of the best backup 5s in the NBA, let's just say that happens. Why is that a bad thing? Why is that bad? Then you can then trade him. If he's showing he can be more than that, another team will want him. Then you can trade him. I don't get it. I don't get the anger behind this trade before you even get to see what Wiseman looks like for the Pistons. Again, like I mentioned earlier, if Wiseman looks like trash over the next year or so and he doesn't show that potential, the problem to me won't be, oh, you gave up, you did terrible value for Saddiq. I don't think it's that bad value. That's not what my concern is going to be. My concern will be your player evaluation was way off. So now I'm going to call into question all your other evaluations. How can I trust you if you felt this strongly about this player evaluation and it was completely off? Now I'm going to start questioning other stuff. Oh, was he right about Isaiah Stewart? Was he right about Killian Hayes? Was he right about Jaden Ivey? And then free agents that he happens to sign. Are you right about this guy? That's my concern. Not value-wise. My concern is he right? Is he accurate with his player evaluations? That's what my concern is. So I can't find that out until we actually get to see Wiseman play. So I think everyone just needs to wait to see if Wiseman can be anything for the Pistons, if Weaver is right in his player evaluation, because then no one will give a damn about value. No one's going to care about value that you got Saddiq Bey for Wiseman instead of a second-round pick or something. If Wiseman turns out to be really damn good for the Pistons, no one's going to give a damn in a year from now. So that's just my opinion on it, man. I don't get it. I don't get it. Not to mention, actually, you know what? I'll save that for the upcoming segment. I'll save this one for the upcoming segment, man. There's another reason why this makes sense for the Pistons. I'll tell you what that is when we come back. But first, I got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, FanDuel. This year, the only app that you need at your Super Bowl party is FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're #1 sports book in America. That is FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. Download FanDuel now so you can bet Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to point spreads to who will score the first touchdown. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Best of all, you can get paid your winnings instantly. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/lockedon to claim your no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. I think you should take the Philadelphia Eagles money line, but that's just me. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to claim your no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. So this is another thing that makes sense to me regarding this trade. So Wiseman's getting paid $9 million this year. His club option was exercised already. He's going to be making $12.1 million next year. Saddiq Bey was under the same contract timeline as James Wiseman. He was going to have to get paid next year, just like Wiseman will eventually have to get paid next year. This upcoming offseason, the draft is stacked with wings. The Pistons know they have to replace their wing area. It was either Bojan or Saddiq, and reports were making it sound like, and I told you guys yesterday that I was hearing it was likely Saddiq was going to be the one more likely to move. I told you guys this. So, with the draft coming up that's stacked in wings, and with the Pistons already feeling like, even if let's say they got like the second pick and they got Scoot Henderson anyways. Let's just say that. The Pistons obviously still felt like they were going to have to make their wing room better, whether that it was a trade to get another pick in the draft or make some signings in free agency. They were going to improve this wing room nonetheless. It was changing. The wing room was changing. So why not trade Saddiq Bey for a guy with the position that you need addressed as a backup 5 on the same contract timeline and figure out if you want to pay him instead of Saddiq Bey? Because you weren't going to pay Saddiq. They were not going to pay Saddiq or extend Saddiq. So flip him for a guy who's under the same contract timeline. Figure out if Wiseman is the one you want to pay, and he can fill out that backup 5 position. It fits the same timeline, except now you were already aware that Weaver was already aware that they were probably going to draft a wing in this upcoming draft if they don't get Wemby with the #1 pick or end up drafting Scoot #2. They were going to be drafting a wing and probably signing another one. So one of them had to go. You ended up flipping him for a guy in position of need right now, which is a backup 5, who Weaver, again, I can't stress this enough. Everyone needs to understand, however you feel about Wiseman, however I feel about Wiseman, does not matter. Weaver is incredibly high on Wiseman. He's not looking at this as just a bad player for it's not as bad as this. Just I think you guys can follow along with the example I'm going to use, so don't take it literally. But like the Stanley Johnson for Thon Maker one, when you're just swapping, young guys that haven't worked out for each team and just seeing if it works out this time for a different scenery. Weaver's not looking at it like that. Weaver's looking at this like, I just got a guy that I think could be really damn good. I'm really high on him. I'm giving up a guy that I'm not going to end up paying, that we're going to end up replacing in the draft anyways. That's all I have to give up. Sure, do it. Like, that's how he's looking at it. And that's another reason why it makes sense. They're probably going to draft a wing. The most likely scenario is the Pistons are not going to get the first overall pick. We hope, we pray, whatever you do, talk to the universe, whatever it is, we hope it's Victor Wembanyama. But the likelihood is the Pistons are probably going to be in the area where they're drafting a wing, unless they get the first or second pick. That was going to be something that was going to cut into Saddiq Bey's minutes with Bojan already on the team. It sounds like and by the way, obviously Bojan survived the deadline. So obviously they feel really good about Bojan. He's going to be on the team next year. You can't have two wings who are this bad defensively. So Saddiq had to go. He just had to. And they did it for a guy they feel extremely high on. Instead of getting, and this is why I'll leave it at right here. This is actually why I'll leave off on. Could the Pistons have traded Saddiq Bey probably for like a couple second-round picks? Probably. They probably could have traded Saddiq Bey for that. I don't think they were getting a first-round pick. I really don't, based on everything we've heard and the things I had heard over the last half a year. The first-round pick wasn't happening. So could they have gotten second-round picks and maybe could they have gotten Cam Reddish or something, a few second-round picks? Would that be better value to people? I don't know. But could they have gotten a few second-round picks? Sure, probably. They probably could. But just like with the Jeremy Grant trade, could they have gotten something else a little bit more valuable player-wise for Jeremy Grant? Probably. But Troy Weaver valued getting that pick instead because it let him get Jalen Duren. He thought that was a better value play for him. Maybe not individually. Do we think that 25 first-round pick for Jeremy Grant was incredible value for Jeremy? No, but he was able to flip that into Jalen Duren, and that was what made it worth it to him. That's what made it worth it to Weaver. Weaver probably looked at this the same way. I could get a bunch of second-round picks. I could get like 2-3 second-round picks or something. I could have got something else for Bey. But why would I do that when I can get someone I'm extremely high on and think I can get a really good, I can really untap his potential for? Why would I not take that instead? And that's how he's looking at it. So that's just how we have to wait and see. We have to wait and see it play out. I'm super excited. The Pistons have needed a backup five. James Wiseman has a lot of untapped potential. I truly don't feel like he was given much of a chance at all in Golden State. I feel like a lot of people feel the same way. It was a bad situation. He wasn't allowed to make mistakes and really work through it. The team was trying to build a dynasty. They're still trying to build a dynasty. He really wasn't going to have a chance to develop. This team, the Pistons team that's rebuilding, giving out minutes to young guys, letting them prove themselves, he's going to get plenty of time. He's going to get plenty of chances to make mistakes, learn from it, get better, that kind of thing. That's what he needs. So hopefully he figures it out here. Hopefully Weaver is right. Hopefully Weaver's right in his player evaluation. But if he isn't, if in a year from now we look back on this and Wiseman hasn't shown us anything, fans have every right at that point to go haywire and start asking Weaver, what's going on with your player evals? Are you really the scout that we think you are? Are you really the scout and player evaluator that people say you are? Because fans are already having questions about Killian Hayes. They don't think he was right with that evaluation. I think what Killian is showing more this year shows you what Weaver valued. I think there's a reason why Killian Hayes is still on this team. I don't think it's just because he doesn't have a ton of trade value. I think Weaver likes what he's seen from him. But my point is, fans are already questioning Killian Hayes. Fans are questioning Isaiah Stewart, even though he's made some incremental improvements this year. Now, his three-point shooting has been down the last month or so, but he's shown some improvements this year. Fans are questioning Stu now. They feel like he was this gifted Kay Cunningham, and now they have Wiseman. So if Wiseman misses in a year, fans are going to start questioning all this. Is he really that good of a evaluator? He was gifted Cade and all the other picks we don't really believe in. That's going to start to happen. Even though he was great with this past draft class with Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren, fans are going to forget about that. They're going to start calling into question everything else. And honestly, if he's this off with his player eval for James Wiseman, I think that's fair. But I think you have to wait and see how he plays for the Pistons. So that's all I've got. This is just my raw reaction to it. There was no I'm going to schedule this out. This is how I want this to be. I'm going to structure all of it. This is just my raw reaction. Went straight into it. In the coming days, we're definitely going to get some Golden State Warriors people on here. I'm going to reach out to a few of the Warriors fans and people who cover them. I'm going to try to reach out to them and get them on the podcast. Stay tuned for that. Get their opinions on Wiseman. So we'll definitely stay tuned for that. And probably tomorrow or the next day, we'll have a more structured reaction or structured evaluation of this trade and everything. But this is my raw reaction. What's your guys' raw reaction? Tell me in the comment section down below or over on Twitter @KukaHill. Man, the Pistons made a move. At least the rest of the year is going to be a little bit more interesting. You have that no matter where you stand with this. But let me know what you guys are feeling like. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. hit that subscribe button at the YouTube channel. Leave a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe. Go Pistons. Welcome to Detroit, James Wiseman. And peace out.